Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Godavani Pracharin Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Taradiva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Vikivalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everybody to our weekly program of Krishna Katha. Today we are continuing the childhood pastimes of Krishna. Today we have 4 different episodes. The first one is entitled Krishna and Balaram Growing Up. After a short time, after the incident of Garga Muni's name-giving service, both Balaram and Krishna began to crawl on their hands and knees. When they were crawling like that, they pleased their mothers. The bells tied to their waists and ankles sounded fascinating, and they would move around very pleasingly. Sometimes, just like ordinary children, Balaram and Krishna would be frightened by others and would immediately hurry to their mothers for protection. Sometimes they would fall into the clay and mud of Vrindavan and approach their mothers smeared with clay and saffron. They were actually smeared with saffron and sandalwood pulp by their mothers, but due to crawling over muddy clay, they would simultaneously smear their bodies with clay. As soon as Krishna and Balaram would come crawling to their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, they would take them on their laps and, covering them with the lower portion of their saris, allow Krishna and Balaram to suck their breasts. When the babies were sucking the breasts of the mothers could see small teeth coming in. Thus, the joy of Yashoda and Rohini would be intensified to see how their children were growing. Sometimes the naughty babies would crawl up to the cowshed, catch the tail of a calf, and stand up. The calves, being disturbed, would immediately begin running here and there, and Krishna and Balaram would be dragged over the clay and cow dung. To see this fun, Yashoda and Rohini would call all their neighboring friends, the gopis. Upon seeing these childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna, the gopis would be merged in transcendental bliss. In their enjoyment, they would laugh very loudly. Both Krishna and Balaram were so restless that their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, would try to protect them from cows, bulls, monkeys, water, fire, and birds while they were executing their household duties. Always being anxious to protect the children and to execute their household duties, the mothers were not very tranquil. In a very short time, both Krishna and Balaram began to stand up and slightly move on their legs. When Krishna and Balaram began to walk, other friends of the same age joined them, and together they began to give the highest transcendental pleasure to the gopis, specifically Mother Yashoda and Rohini. So we must keep in mind and understand these childhood pastimes of Krishna appropriately. We learned from Bhagavad Gita that anyone who understands Krishna's birth and activities and understands them in truth, then one is not coming back to the material world, but is instead going to Krishna's abode. So the way to understand these childhood pastimes of Krishna, Krishna is doing many things at the same time. One of the things Krishna is doing is behaving in this way as to attract others to his wonderful appearance and activities. The whole purpose of Krishna's descending, despite his coming to save the devotees and to annihilate the demons, apart from that, Krishna wants to show everyone in the world what it's like to be in the spiritual kingdom. Everybody has their own fantasy or what they think is the kingdom of God. But by studying these pastimes of Krishna, we get a real glimpse of what is going on in the spiritual world right now. These are just prototypes. These are just glimpses, but they give us a tangible idea of what is going on in the spiritual world every day. So this next episode is called The Gopis Complain. All the gopi friends of Yashoda and Rohini enjoyed the naughty, childish activities of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. In order to enjoy further transcendental bliss, they all assembled and went to Mother Yashoda to lodge complaints against the restless boys, Krishna and Balaram. When Krishna was sitting before Mother Yashoda, all the elder gopis began to lodge complaints against Krishna, and they wanted Krishna to hear. So they would say, "Dear Yashoda, why you do not restrict your naughty Krishna? Your Krishna comes to our homes along with Balaram every morning and evening. And before the milking of the cows, Krishna and Balaram let loose the calves, and so the calves drink all the milk of the cows. So when we go to milk, we find no milk in the cows, and we have to return with empty pots. And if we warn Krishna and Balaram about doing this, they simply smile so charmingly that we cannot do anything. And also, your Krishna and Balaram find great pleasure in stealing our stock of yogurt and butter from wherever we keep it. And when Krishna and Balaram are caught stealing the yogurt and butter, then they reply, "Why do you charge us with stealing? Do you think that butter and yogurt are in scarcity in our homes? Sometimes Krishna and Balaram steal butter, yogurt, and milk and then distribute them to the monkeys. And when the monkeys are well fed and do not take any more, then your boys chide. This milk and butter and yogurt are useless. Why, even the monkeys won't take it. And then Krishna and Balaram break the pots and throw them hither and thither. If we keep our stock of yogurt, butter, and milk in a solitary dark place, your Krishna and Balaram find it in the darkness by the glaring effulgence of their ornaments and the jewels on their bodies. If by chance they cannot find the hidden butter and yogurt, they then go to our little babies and pinch their bodies so that they cry, and then Krishna and Balaram go away. If out of fear of these naughty boys of yours, we keep our stock of butter and yogurt high on the ceiling, hanging on a swing, although it is beyond their reach, they somehow arrange to reach it by piling all kinds of wooden planks over the grinding machine. And if they cannot reach, then they make a hole in the pot. We think, therefore, that you had better take all the jeweled ornaments from the bodies of your children. So upon hearing this, Yashoda would then say, all right, I will take all the jewels from Krishna so that he cannot see the butter hidden in the darkness. But then the gopis would say, no, don't do this. What good will you do by taking away the jewels? We do not know what kind of boys these are. For even without ornaments, they spread some kind of effulgence, so that even in darkness, they can see everything. Then Mother Yashoda would inform the ladies, all right, keep your butter and yogurt carefully so that Krishna and Balaram may not reach it. In reply to this, the gopis said, yes, actually we do so, but because we are sometimes engaged in our household duties, these naughty boys enter our houses somehow or other and spoil everything. Sometimes, being unable to steal our butter and yogurt, out of anger, Krishna and Balaram pass urine on the clean floor and sometimes spit. Now just see how your boy is hearing these complaints. All day, Krishna simply makes arrangements to steal our butter and yogurt. And Krishna is sitting there, just like a very silent good boy. Why, just see his face. But when Mother Yashoda thought to chastise Krishna, after hearing all the complaints, Yashoda would look at Krishna's pitiable face, and Yashoda simply smiled and did not chastise Krishna. So, in this episode, one thing that we can understand is that Krishna is imitating the behavior of an ordinary human child. And the reason Krishna is doing this is because he wants to relate with his mother like a little child. As Narayan, Krishna is worshipped and adored and honored. But when he comes in this form of Krishna and displays ordinary human-like pastimes, he gets to relate to his devotees in a very innocent, intimate way. And the devotees are unaware that Krishna is God. This is called Yoga Maya. As Narayan Everybody knows Narayan is God, and so there is awe and reverence and veneration. But when Krishna comes down as the human form, remember, it's a human form, not that he's a human. He's God. He has all the potencies of God. But he is disguising himself to look like an ordinary human child in order to give an opportunity for his devotees to relate to him very intimately. And they have no conception that Krishna is God, but they simply love Krishna. That is Vrindavan. That is the spiritual world. It is a place where everyone, everything simply loves Krishna. Now, Krishna's name means all attractive. So we just heard in this second episode so many naughty activities of Krishna and Balaram. They're stealing, they're causing disturbance, they're doing so many naughty activities. Still, Krishna is all attractive. That is the mark of Krishna's pastimes, that even he does things which ordinarily are disturbing, still they're attractive. So let's go to episode 3, entitled The Cowherder Boy's Plot. Another day, when Krishna and Balaram were playing with their friends, all the cowherder boys joined Balaram and complained to Mother Yashoda that Krishna had eaten clay. Upon hearing this, Mother Yashoda caught hold of Krishna's hand and said, "My dear Krishna, why have you eaten earth in a solitary place? Just see, all your friends, including Balaram, are complaining about you." But being afraid of his mother, Krishna replied, "Oh, my dear mother, all these boys, including my elder brother Balaram, what, they are speaking lies against me. I have never eaten any clay. Why, just today, my elder brother Balaram, while playing, became angry, and therefore Balaram has joined with the other cowherder boys to complain against me. They have all combined together to complain so that you will be angry and chastise me. So if you think they are truthful, then you can look within my mouth just to see whether I have eaten clay or not." Krishna's mother, Yashoda, then replied, "All right, if you have actually not eaten any clay, then just open your mouth and then I shall see for myself." When the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna was so ordered by his mother, Krishna immediately opened his mouth just like an ordinary boy. Then Mother Yashoda saw within Krishna's mouth the complete opulence of creation. Yashoda saw the entire outer space in all directions, mountains, islands, oceans, seas, planets, air, fire, moon, and the stars. And along with the moon and stars, Yashoda also saw the entire elements: water, sky, the extensive ethereal existence, along with the total ego and the products of the senses and the controller of the senses. She saw the demigods, the objects of the senses, like sound and smell, and the three qualities of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Yashoda also could perceive that within Krishna's mouth were all living entities: eternal time, material nature, spiritual nature, activity, consciousness, and different forms of the whole creation. Yashoda could find within the mouth of her child Krishna everything necessary for the cosmic manifestation. And Yashoda also saw within Krishna's mouth herself taking Krishna on her lap and having Krishna suck her breast. And upon seeing all this, Yashoda became struck with awe and began to wonder whether she were dreaming or actually seeing something extraordinary. Yashoda concluded that she was either dreaming or seeing the play of the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yashoda thought that she had become mad, mentally deranged, to see all these wonderful things. Then Yashoda began to think, "Oh, this may all be the cosmic power, mystic power, attained by my child Krishna. And although I am therefore perplexed by such visions within Krishna's mouth, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is beyond the expression of consciousness, mind, work, and philosophical speculation, and whose different energies produce everything manifest and unmanifest. Under the energy of Narayan, all bodily self and bodily possessions are conceived. Yes, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Narayan, under whose illusory energy I am thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband and that Krishna is my son, that all the properties of Nanda Maharaj belong to me, and that all the cowherder men and women are my subjects. All this misconception is due to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. So let me pray to Narayan that he may protect me always." And while Mother Yashoda was thinking in this high philosophical way, Lord Krishna again expanded his internal energy. He did this just to bewilder Yashoda with maternal affection. Immediately, Mother Yashoda forgot all philosophical speculation and accepted Krishna just as her own child. Yashoda took Krishna on her lap and became overwhelmed with maternal affection. Yashoda thus began to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is understood through the process of cultivating knowledge derived from the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, who is understood through the practice of mystic yoga, and who is understood by studying Sankhya philosophy. But she was thinking of Krishna as her own begotten child. So this episode teaches us that on one hand, Krishna is playing with Yashoda. This is the second time now that Krishna has shown within his mouth the universal form. But this time, Krishna also showed within his mouth. Yashoda was seeing herself and Krishna, and Yashoda taking care of Krishna. So this really blew Yashoda's mind. And she was thinking in this high philosophical way. But as soon as Yashoda was thinking that Krishna was something extraordinary, maybe he's God, immediately Krishna expands his yoga maya, and Yashoda forgets everything and understands, no, Krishna is simply my little child, nothing more. Krishna does not want to disturb the understanding of Yashoda, because if Yashoda thinks that Krishna is God, then she will not relate to him as she would if she thinks that Krishna is just her little child. Krishna wants Yashoda to associate with him, treating him like an ordinary child, so that Yashoda will display natural maternal affection. If Yashoda thinks that Krishna is God, that natural, spontaneous, loving, maternal affection will disappear, and she will develop that awe and reverence and veneration. So Krishna wants Yashoda to relate to him in intimacy, with great love and affection, like any mother does with their child. That's what Krishna wants. That is how Krishna is enjoying these human-like pastimes. He wants Yashoda, and so therefore he expands that Yoga Maya. So at this point, I want to explain the difference between Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. A week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Sri Leish asked me about this, the difference between Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. So, Yoga Maya is also illusion, but it is a transcendental illusion. It is a spiritual illusion. What is that? Just like Yashoda does not know that Krishna is God, still she's relating with him, she's loving him, she's serving him. But the concept of godness, of godhood, is completely done away with. So Yoga Maya is that potency of Krishna by which the devotee relates to Krishna very intimately, and the conception of God is very, very far distant. Rather, the emotions of intimacy is highly exalted. Now, the other Maya is Mahamaya. Mahamaya is prevalent in the material world. In the spiritual world, Yoga Maya is on full display, either in Vaikuntha, but especially in Goloka Vrindavan, this Yoga Maya potency. But in the material world, everyone is under the influence of Mahamaya, material identification, material forgetfulness. Yes, the residents of the spiritual world are in forgetfulness that Krishna is God. But they love God, they relate to God, but they are forgetful of Krishna being God. In the material world, people are forgetful of God, and they have become enamored by the illusory material energy. So in Mahamaya, one has forgotten what? That I am the eternal servant of God. In Mahamaya, one thinks, I am this body. I'm an American. I'm a Panamanian. I'm a Hindu. I am a Muslim. I am man. I am woman. This is all Mahamaya. Why? Because it's based on the temporary body. If you recall the very first lessons we learned in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna began his instructions in chapter 2, the first lesson, you're not the body. That was the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. You're not the body. You are spirit soul. And we studied specifically 20 verses in chapter 2, starting with verse number 11 and going to verse number 30. And as your homework, I recommend that you once again study Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verses 11 through 30, so that you clearly understand the difference between the soul and the body, the difference between matter and spirit, the difference between the illusory energy and the eternal energy. So Mahamaya means everyone is thinking, I am this body, which we are not. We are not this body. We are eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. And the whole process of Bhagavad Gita is to come and become convinced once and for all that I am the eternal servant of Krishna. In the words of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we just had his appearance day this past Sunday, Gaur Purnima. So, Lord Chaitanya was asked by Sanatan Goswami, Ke Ami, who am I? That is a very intelligent question. Who am I? And if you've understood Bhagavad Gita, the answer is Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. Lord Chaitanya said, your identity, the identity of the Jiva soul, is to be Nitya Krishna Das, eternal servant of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya went on to explain, like a particle of sun ray, like an atomic particle, the soul is an atomic particle of the sun-like Krishna. Now we go to the final episode of today, entitled The Identity of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Certainly, Mother Yashoda had executed many pious activities, as a result of which she got the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as her son, who sucked milk from her breast. Similarly, Nanda Maharaj also must have performed many great sacrifices and pious activities for Lord Krishna to become his son and address him as father. But it is surprising that Vasudeva and Devaki did not enjoy the transcendental bliss of Krishna's childhood pastimes, although Krishna was their quote-unquote real son. These childhood pastimes of Krishna are glorified even today by many sages and saintly persons. But Vasudeva and Devaki could not enjoy such childhood pastimes personally. The reason for this was explained by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit as follows. So this is the history of how Yashoda and Nanda got to be in this situation. When the best of the Vasus, named Drona, and his wife Dara were ordered to increase progeny by Lord Brahma, they said to him, Dear Father, we are seeking your benediction. When we take birth again within the universe, may the Supreme Lord Krishna, in his most attractive feature of childhood, absorb our whole attention. May our dealings with Krishna be so powerful that simply by hearing of these childhood activities of Krishna, anyone will very easily cross over the nescience of birth and death. So this statement of Drona and Dara is very significant. So they specifically ask for the benediction that they would be able to experience the childhood pastimes of Krishna, namely from right after his birth to the 11th year. In the 11th year is when Krishna and Balaram leave Vrindavan, go to Mathura, and Krishna kills Kamsa. So for those first 11 years, Nanda and Yashoda are completely absorbed in Krishna's childhood past activities. But notice here how they have pointed out one reason why we should learn and study these childhood pastimes. What do they say here? That simply by hearing of these childhood activities of Krishna, anyone will very easily cross over the nescience of birth and death. So, while we are in this session every week, to the degree that you are totally absorbed, and to the degree you're not distracted, not looking at your cell phone, and not being distracted, to the degree that you are absorbed in these narrations, to that degree you are liberated and on the transcendental platform. Over the so many years, so many times people have asked me, why you do not go to India? And I tell them, I don't have to go to India. All I have to do is read this Krishna book, and I am in Vrindavan. What to speak of India? I'm in the transcendental world. It's simply a question of being absorbed. So that is my clue to you. Somehow, at least during this class and outside of this class, try to get absorbed in these narrations. Try to get absorbed in chanting the Maha Mantra, because to the degree that you can get absorbed, you are transcending the modes of nature. And so I don't need to go to India. All I have to do is sit down and become absorbed in Krishna book. I'm in Vrindavan. I'm in Dwaraka. Lord Brahma agreed to give Drona and Dara the benediction they requested. And as a result, Drona appeared as Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, and the same Dara appeared as Mother Yashoda, the wife of Nanda Maharaj. In this way, Nanda Maharaj and his wife, Mother Yashoda, developed their unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having gotten Krishna as their son. And all the gopis and cowherder men who were associates of Krishna naturally developed their own different feelings of love for Krishna. And therefore, just to fulfill the benediction of Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna appeared along with his plenary expansion, Balaram, and performed all kinds of childhood pastimes in order to increase the transcendental pleasure of all the residents of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.